Hi everyone, I'm Jon. Beside me as always is Joe.
How's everybody doing? And excited for yet another episode on Sports Revolution. And this episode is actually the last of the four games in the NFL Divisional Round of the playoffs. This one is the AFC Divisional matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the Denver Broncos. And we did do a previous episode on the AFC Divisional matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots on the first episode, so feel free to check that out. And this matchup, I feel like this could really be a one-sided affair between these two teams.
This is an interesting game because there are a lot of question marks. Pittsburgh is obviously addling from so very many injuries right now. I mean, it's a minor miracle that Pittsburgh even made it into the playoffs because they had Le'Veon Bell go down. They've had Ben Roethlisberger go down twice already. This is the third time. Antonio Brown is experiencing concussion symptoms right now.
And very strict protocols in the NFL regarding these concussion injuries, as there should be. And then, of course, the last one is D'Angelo Williams, their halfback,
who still remains questionable for the game. As it stands, it looks like Antonio Brown and D'Angelo Williams may not end up playing in this. And Ben Roethlisberger said he's going to do all he can to be involved in the game, but he has two torn ligaments in his shoulder right now, so even if he plays, he's going to be playing in agony.
He's two torn ligaments in his shoulder. That's not a good injury for a quarterback at all. And not to mention, Pittsburgh, like you said, it was a miracle that they made it into the playoffs, but it was even a bigger miracle that they made it even to this round. They played such a crazy game last weekend against the Bengals, but the Bengals kind of shot themselves in the foot right at the end of the game with a lot of really dumb mental mistakes.
Yeah.
But overall, that game was pretty ugly, in my opinion. Not a high-scoring game. Pittsburgh managed to get in, but Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger both suffered their injuries in that same game.
Yeah.
And they're going up against the Denver Broncos team who has a home field advantage, and they're playing in a really tough stadium at Mile High.
Yeah, I think the biggest storyline involving Denver is the fact that they're handing the ball back to Peyton Manning.
Yeah, that they are. I mean, that's a big risk Denver's taking, but they've always seemed to feel confident with Peyton Manning going out there. But the big question is, how is Peyton going to play? And he had been injured for a few weeks during the season as well.
Yeah, and now we're going to see whether all of that was because of the injury or if he's simply no longer a top-tier quarterback.
Yeah, that definitely plays a big factor in Denver's success. I mean, Denver seems to be actually improving more on the defensive end. Like when they picked up DeMarcus Ware from Dallas a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah,
he's still playing very well, and he's a good formidable player to have in that defensive back for the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean they've got that the holy trinity there. They've got Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, and Aqib Talib.
Yep, and that's going to be a big issue for the Steelers.
Yeah.
If whether Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown are healthy or not, because Talib, as everybody has seen in New England and during his career down in Tampa as well, he's a really good shutdown quarterback. Yeah. He's probably the second best to Darrelle Revis at this stage.
Yeah, I'd say he had a better performance this year than Darrelle Revis. Because Revis was burned by a lot of receivers this year. All right, so I got a question for you. It's a fun question, and I want to know what you guys think. How many interceptions are going to be thrown in this game?
Will it be as much as Brian Hoyer in that wild card weekend? It could be. I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, the last time we saw Peyton Manning, he threw 4 interceptions against Kansas City.
What a coincidence, Kansas City. Well, not to mention they're in the same division, but that's a separate issue.
Yeah, Roethlisberger had almost as many interceptions this year as he did touchdowns. And Landry Jones, his potential backup, he threw an interception every 12 passes. So I feel like this is going to be a big defensive battle.
It'll be a big defensive battle, and the crazy part is for Pittsburgh, if Roethlisberger's not ready to go, Landry Jones is the only quarterback they have.
Yeah, and who does he have to throw to? Martavis Bryant. I mean, they got Heath Miller and they have Marcus Wheaton, but they're both in the twilight of their careers. They're not on par with a guy like Antonio Brown.
And they're not going to be able to... I don't think it's going to be a good matchup for them going up against the mentionables, Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, and Aqib Talib, and whole entire Denver defense. There's just no way.
No, especially if they don't have Brown or D'Angelo Williams there to take away the attention that they might otherwise receive. It'll be interesting to see how this game unfolds.
It absolutely will be. And to now go into the key players in this segment, key player for Denver is going to be Peyton Manning offensively, because as we've seen around the league, or everybody's been questioning around the league, like, which Peyton Manning are we actually going to see? Are we going to see the one that's top tier? Are we going to see the one that's still kind of recovering from an injury? Or are we going to see a Peyton Manning that has recovered from his injuries, but age is just catching up to him too much? And the next key player that I'm going to mention for Pittsburgh, this is actually not a player. This is on Mike Tomlin, the head coach.
It's a good pick.
This is a good pick because this game for Pittsburgh, it's going to be a matter of tough decisions, and if Tomlin's decisions are going to be the right ones in this game. Say you play Ben Roethlisberger and he gets even more injured and he's out of the game anyway, and you could even lose him for a good portion next year depending on the severity of the injury. Or sit him out and just play out Landry Jones in a game that's going to lead you to the AFC Championship game. So this is all on Mike Tomlin at this stage.
I think that's an excellent pick, and my picks are exactly the same. I think for Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin's going to be on the hot seat here, because Pittsburgh, with Antonio Brown looking increasingly likely to sit this game out, D'Angelo Williams potentially out, and Roethlisberger playing with an injured shoulder, I think it's going to come down to Mike Tomlin's coaching.
It's going to be his decision, and that's the other thing too. Like, it's going to be his coaching too, because either way, if he's not going to play any of his starters, it's going to feel like training camp all over again, trying to assemble his roster and trying to get a little camaraderie going, like, at the worst possible time.
Yeah, Landry Jones has not quite proven himself to be a capable replacement for Roethlisberger just yet. With D'Angelo Williams and Le'Veon Bell down, they have no running game to speak of, really. So I think Mike Tomlin is going to have the game of his career if this team is going to overcome an incredibly stout defense. As far as Denver is concerned, I think it's going to come down to Peyton Manning. Which Peyton Manning shows up? Is it going to be the healthy Peyton Manning that we've seen the last few years, who despite having an inability to throw downfield has still managed to excel? Or is it going to be a Peyton Manning who's obviously in the twilight of his career, who doesn't throw the ball as well as he once did, whose accuracy has dwindled? We'll see. Those are my two picks for key players.
And whether Pittsburgh's going to be successful because of what's going through the head of Mike Tomlin, or on the other side of the ball with Denver and Peyton Manning, like, how's he going to fare out? Is he going to play well? Is he going to play poorly? Who knows? But now, moving on, what final score do we expect to see in this game, given all these crazy circumstances that both teams are going to be under?
This is a tough one. I feel like this is a bit tougher than all the other three, because all the other three, each team has their strengths, they have their weaknesses, and one team seems to be favored over the other. This one, I might give it to Denver simply because Denver has the healthier team. Demaryius Thomas is healthy. Emmanuel Sanders is healthy. Peyton Manning is now supposedly healthier. We'll see.
None of us know that. This is the tricky part.
Whereas Pittsburgh is beaten up quite a bit. Most of the members of their core roster are suffering from some injury or another. So I'm going to give it to Denver. I think Denver is probably going to capitalize on all the injuries that Pittsburgh has sustained, and they're going to end up overcoming them with their stout defense. As far as a final score is concerned, I think they'll probably end up beating them 21-14. I think it'll be a close game nonetheless.
All right, and for my opinion as well, I believe Denver is going to come out victorious as well for basically the same exact reasons that you just mentioned. But if Pittsburgh does decide that they're going to go ahead, if Tomlin decides he's going to go ahead and just start throwing Roethlisberger out there all of a sudden, mid-game decision because his team is losing, he very well could do that, and it's still going to be a very close game regardless. But I think final score, I'm going to give it to Denver by the score of 2017.
I think that's a good pick. I think it's going to be close no matter what.
It's going to be a close game no matter what. And with these in mind, I hope you guys loved all of our divisional matchups here on Sports Revolution Talk. For Jon and Joe, we'll talk to you next time with a lot of great future shows to come.